Salutations, Legion of Doom. Welcome to Podcast of the Storm, where socially awkward outcasts, crazy weirdos, and all around nerds convene to talk and debate all things pop culture. With me, as always, is my co host, the Dirty Occultist, aka the Authenticator, Dalton L. Mortimer.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Long story short, the Pentac plan completely went bust, so the course of the podcast will not be interrupted. Other than that, though, I had a pretty decent birthday, so can't complain.
Oh, do you mind showing what because I did get Dalton something for his birthday.
Yes, he got me this necklace. The only problem being is it is too long to be wearing on the regular. I guess if I was wearing my fancy black coat with it, that would look cool probably, but as it happens, it hangs about half an inch above my belly, so it's a little bit long for me.
Yeah, I do
I don't know if you guys can see it.
apologize for that. But yeah, it is a lion's head. It's a lion's head pendant or necklace.
Yes, and there are also beads. It's a nice necklace. It's just too long to make wearing it practical. It's also very heavy actually for a necklace. Like the actual pendant must be made of some pretty hard metal because it's quite heavy.
Do I know how to get you gifts, or do I not know how to get you gifts?
You know, it's just sometimes the practical side of things gets in the way. Like
Right.
the 1 year for Christmas, he got me a bow tie, but it wasn't a pre-tied one, so I can't actually wear it very often unless somebody helps me put it on. And I hate having to rely on other people to help me get dressed, so I usually go with pre-tied ones because those I can fasten myself. Because disability is a thing, and fucking reality occasionally hates me.
All right, so not gonna lie, most of this week is done. Although I guess the trailers, because we are doing trailers, like 2 of them. Spoilers.
I was literally
Online.
about to send the Joker one before you sent it, so like,
Right.
yeah. But
But yeah,
definitely the Transformers one at least.
yeah. And don't worry, we got a lot of stuff covered next week as well.
Because this week is Comic-Con week, so of course there is news to be had.
Always. All right. So let's see if this is.
Hopefully,
okay, there we
I'll
go.
be able to see
Yeah, like I said, this
Deadpool and
one was sent by
Wolverine
Dalton.
sometime next week as well, so we might be able to work a review of that in.
Oh, I already saw it yesterday.
Which is why I said maybe if I can see it this week by piracy oriented means, we can do a review of it next week. Because I just don't want to have to deal with leaving
My
the house and
briefest
going to the
thing,
theater.
I liked it.
I've heard it wasn't quite as cameo heavy as a lot of people thought it was going to
Hold
be,
on. God
and
damn it, you piece of shit.
that's at least a positive. Because I hate when there are cameos just for the sake of having cameos. Either make your cameos organic to the plot or don't have them.
What? I'm not. I will say I enjoyed it. That's all I can really say because I don't want to spoil anything.
Right. Like I said, we will have to open a slot for next week so that we can do a review of it, provided I can find it on one of the piracy sites over the course of the week. Because unless Doctor Strange is involved, I'm not paying money to go to the theater to watch such a movie.
All right. So sorry, I had to get rid of the ad on the damn thing. Like I said, don't want to talk about this one because he is he's a big Sandman fan.
Mm-hmm.
DC Comics to publish Sandman's Shakespeare as published Friday, July 19th. The Sandman, the complete Shakespeare collection, will include Sandman 13, 19, A Midsummer's Night Dream by Rich Johnson.
Oh, Rich, the last time you mentioned Sandman, it almost gave me a rage stroke. Pray you don't fuck up again.
Moving on.
Yep.
All right. Ahead of the new season of Sandman on Netflix, and one in which one can presume William Shakespeare will be playing quite a large part, with their adaptation of Midsummer's Night Dream by Neil Gaiman, William Shakespeare, and Charles Vess as is credited. DC will be collecting all the Shakespeare Sandman in its own separate volume for Shakespeare's 460th birthday.
I mean, that's an interesting idea, and if you were going to do that with any character, doing it with Sandman makes sense. Although, Rich, points deducted for reminding me the Netflix version is a thing. I really wish I could have just kept on ignoring that was a thing for the foreseeable future. But yeah, points deducted. But anyway, you were saying. Sorry, I think I cut you off.
All right. No, it's fine. God's Bodkins, it seems only but yesterday he was 450. Yeah, okay, I'll stop that now. I regret it almost immediately.
Rich, there are times when I regret your existence, sir. Anyway, moving forward. Cringe joke aside.
Sandman, the complete Shakespeare. Yeah. The Sandman, the complete. God damn. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you're fine.
Okay.
I I can hear you fine. It's fine.
All right. The Sandman, all right. The Sandman, the complete Shakespeare collection will include Sandman 13, which already popped up in season 1 for Men of Good Fortune, with Shakespeare 19 and Sandman 70 in the
I mean, like, it seems a little odd to just stick the Shakespeare books together because it'll kind of confuse the shit out of the plot. But like I say, as a fan of both Sandman and Shakespeare, it does make sense to make a solo collection for it. And Sandman already has several sort of odd collections. Like Death got her own collection thing as well. So if it's a series that already lends itself to it, which it does, then yeah, thematically, I think this is the best way to honor Master Shakespeare and also draw people's attention back to the Sandman. Please, for the love of God, don't let modern Neil Gaiman touch it. Every time he returns to the Sandman, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So don't let modern Neil Gaiman touch it, but collect the things that he made back when his mind was apparently still intact, and don't let his modern self touch it, and we should be fine. Moving forward.
Mm-hmm. All right. Perhaps no other literary figure has been more closely associated with the Sandman than playwright William Shakespeare. Mid- a Midsummer Night's Dream from the Sandman.
Damn it. You cut out Brainstormer. Seems like the connection is a bit choppy tonight. Oh dear. I sense the incoming of technical difficulties because we have the buffering wheel of death. And there he goes. The technical difficulties have begun. The technical difficulties. But in case anyone wanted a closer look at my new necklace, low hanging and slightly too heavy, though it may be, because it is a nice necklace. It's just I am not tall enough to make such a thing work. It is somewhere between my stomach and my solar plexus. Um, so that is more of a my be, although I blame just nature occasionally screwing around with me. Um, But yeah, it's a really nice necklace, but I'm going to have to reserve it for when I can get even more dressed up than my default state, or at the very least when I'm wearing my long flowing traveling coat that I got for Christmas last year. That will look very nice next to this. And he's back. Huzzah. If you are speaking, I cannot hear you. Although that might be
Hello?
on my end. Okay, now I hear you. Huzzah.
I was actually gone. Like, my internet crapped out
Uh-huh.
for like a good second there. Oh god,
Yeah,
I
so
fucking
so so I so I
every
gathered.
fucking time.
Yeah, so I gathered because we got up to no other literary figure is associated with the Sandman more than Shakespeare, and then your audio got choppy as fuck, and then we got the buffering wheel of death, which is usually a sign that connection issues are happening.
All right. Hold on. I read a whole fucking thing, and
The audio
god
got
damn it.
dumped.
Okay, can you? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Okay, he said after William Shakespeare, everything else started to get choppy.
Yes,
All right.
and then it
A
got
Midsummer's
quiet
Night Dream
because
from.
it started having
Can I?
buffering issues.
All right. Okay. Before we suffer any more issues, I want to get through this. All right.
Mhm.
A Midsummer Night Dream from the Sandman number 19 established that Oberon, Titania, and other fairy characters from Will's plays existed within the Sandman universe, and issue number 75 revealed the full extent of the bargain made between Morpheus and Shakespeare that allowed his work to inspire humanity for generations to come. To commemorate the Bard's 460th 60th birthday anniversary, sorry, DC Comics proudly presents all of the Sandman Shakespeare issues assembled in one volume, recolored by Eisner, Harvey, and Ink Pod award-winning colorist Steve Cliff, Akira's Absolute Swamp Thing by Alan Moore. These key appearances include Shakespeare's initial cameo in Sandman 13, the aforementioned World Fantasy award-winning The Sandman number 19, and the final Sandman story, The Tempest, featuring selected painted interiors by Charles Vess. This all-in-one collection is a must-have for fans of literature and fantasy and those who believe in the power of dreams.
That's as maybe. One minor quibble here. He is called Dream. Morpheus is just one of his names when he's interacting with the Greek pantheon. Please do keep this in mind. I know it is a nitpick, but it pisses me off when people minimalize him in that way. Morpheus is too small of a deity to associate with Dream. If you must call him something with a Greek orientation, I would prefer we start standardizing the name Oniros, because that is the one that translates most firmly to dream and is a primordial within the Greek pantheon, which is much closer to what an endless is supposed to be than Morpheus, who is the son of Hypnos in, I believe, Hesiod's Theogony, but I might be mistaken there. But point being, Morpheus and the other Oniroi, when they are viewed as separate entities, are too small to encompass the majesty that is Dream. So if we must call him something of a Greek persuasion, I vote Oniros.
Okay. All right. That was the end of the article.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And Dylan sent me this. I have no idea. So originally it was from the New York Post. Microsoft reportedly fires DEI team, becoming latest company to ditch woke policy by Ariel Zilber. I believe. Published July 17th, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why you wanted to cover this, but okay.
I wanted to cover it because DEI and ESG are it's basically the it's the institutional codifying of social justice or wokeness, which is what we frequently find ourselves at odds with. And this is a sign, at the very least, that the worm is, however slowly, turning. So it's good. Also, Schadenfreude, seeing Microsoft be weakened by social justice is good because fuck Microsoft and fuck social justice. So seeing them both fail simultaneously is a good thing.
All right, right.
Mhm.
Microsoft has reportedly laid off a team devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion after pouring millions of dollars into the initiative, becoming the latest major company to ditch the woke policy.
Again,
Uh,
that's a
Big
good
tech giant.
thing, but it's a good thing. But frankly, you never should have had any such department to begin with, any more than like 1970s Hollywood should have had the Hays Code, because this is basically fundamentally the social justice equivalent of the Hays Code or of bowdlerization. Back in the day, it was the traditionalist conservatives or the evangelicals who had the moral whip hand over every fucking corporation. I would prefer a world in which no arbitrary moral slanting was done to companies that should primarily be there to sell product and make good product. But apparently, we're now living in a world, or we were living in a world, where the left wing equivalent of the Hays Code was happening in the form of ESG, DEI, and most recently Bridge. But it's nice to see that the wheel is turning, and that hopefully someday ESG and DEI will be banished. I really hope that doesn't mean that the tradcons are going to come back, because again, I would prefer a world in which morality was confined to the private sphere and had very little, if anything, to do with the public sphere. The only thing that matters in the public sphere should be meritocracy, not morality. Moving on.
All right. All right. Microsoft has reportedly laid off a team devoted to. I already read that. The big tech giant disbanded the DEI team at the beginning of the month due to changing business needs, according to a July 1st email obtained by Business Insider. It's unclear how many employees were affected. The decision was a further sign that companies are pulling back on diversity-based initiatives that were put in place following the 2020 death of George Floyd and the subsequent Black Lives Matter protest campaigns.
Small point, but that's not when ESG and DEI were implemented. They have been they have been slowly creeping their way into the corporate world ever since around 2013, with movements like intersectional feminism and public figures like Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. I know that BLM was probably the most recent crop of social justice moralism that made its way into the corporate world, but as far as its originating vectors, feminism came first, then BLM, and then just straight up, anti anti-white, anti-male, and anti-meritocracy uh, subsets. Moving on.
All right. Last year, Google and Meta reduced the scope of their DEI programs and cut staff as part of the restructuring layoffs at both companies, according to CNBC. Nothing to say.
Again, the only thing that really needs to be said here is, one, why did you have those moral censors in the first place? And two, I'm just going to gloat a little bit, because everyone and their mother told you that prioritizing morality over merit is completely bullshit, and will ultimately bankrupt you, because that so-called modern audience you're looking for is not a thing. Or at the very least, they're a set of people who, by virtue of their hatred of things like meritocracy and capitalism, don't want to support corporate America in the first fucking place. By no means am I saying change it back to the way it was before, because the way it was before was the Hays Code and Bowdlerization. My suggestion is you go back the way you came to the standard of the 90s, which is nobody gets the moral whip hand, nobody gets to be morally authoritarian in the public sphere, and we're all just going to have to deal with being free-thinking, libertarian, small L individuals who don't give a fuck about morality and only want to have merit and or fun. That is, as far as I'm concerned, the correct answer. Nobody gets the moral whip hand, and morality is confined, as it should be, to the motherfucking private sphere, and meritocracy is the watchword of the public sphere. End of discussion. Moving on.
Right. Okay. On Tuesday, tractor giant John Deere announced it will scuttle nearly all its DEI policies in favor of a quality-based workplace. That followed a decision last month by farm chair retailer Tractor Supply to axe all DEI goals and positions.
Yeah. Everyone told you this was a bad idea. Everyone told you it was nothing more than the left-wing equivalent of the Hays Code, and everyone told you that if you prioritized morality above meritocracy, you would get more alleged morality than you would meritocracy, and therefore your bottom line would be negatively affected. Good to see the message after fucking 10 or 11, 12 years of trying at this point finally got through. Are you ever going to apologize to all the people you demonized and called various different flavors of immoral for telling you that morality has no place in this arena? Fuck off. Moving on.
All right. Zoom, Snap, Tesla, DoorDash, Lyft, Home Depot, and Wayfair have also downsized their DEI teams. Overall, DEI-related job postings declined by 44% by mid-2003 compared to the same period in 2002. Microsoft had pledged to invest $150 million into its DEI push, which involved doubling the number of Black and Hispanic leaders by 2025. Our D&I commitments remain unchanged, a Microsoft spokesperson told Business Insider.
Okay, see, here's the problem. You're never going to actually fix the problem unless you identify the actual problem. Because here, in short, is what happened. Some people from academia and from the activist sphere thereof came to corporations and said, there is something morally wrong with your company, and if you fix it, people will applaud you because this is the morally correct answer. This was incorrect on every conceivable level. Then some people from the grassroots side of the internet caught wind of this and told you that this was going to backfire horribly, because the people who sold you all that activist moralistic nonsense are anti-capitalist, and part of their morality involves the demonization or outright fictionalization of the concept of meritocracy. And as such, in order to please them, you would have to prioritize morality over merit, and your company would suffer accordingly. These people were at least adjacent to being correct, and yet the standard watchword among basically every corporation or vector of entertainment and consumerism for the last 10 years was anyone who speaks out negatively in opposition to social justice is a fascist, a Nazi, an immoral, pick the moral buzzword. And despite the fact that these people were not any of these things, and were in fact just telling you that there is no profitability to be found here, and if you implement this morality, you will end up, by necessity, undermining meritocracy, you carried on with it for 10 years anyway, and predictable as a fucking sunrise, it bit you squarely on the ass. You are not going to get anywhere until you go back the way you came, and just a suggestion for me personally, apologize to the people you demonized, because they were not any such demonic thing when you demonized them, and they were correct. They were telling you a truth that you did not want to hear and that you considered to be immoral, and because of the machinations of activists and academics the world over, you chose morality over merit and over the truth, and it bit you on the ass. It took 10 years because these corporations have way more disposable money than they probably should have, but eventually the message got through that the people who you demonized were right, and the people you appointed your moral betters were wrong and actively destructive to everything they touch. Moving on.
All right. Our focus on diversity and inclusion is unwavering, and we are holding firm on our expectations, priorities, and accountability, and continue to focus on this work. Nonetheless, Microsoft's July 1 email was met with blowback from an unnamed DEI team leader at the company. The worker fired off a missive to thousands of fellow employees the same day, lamenting the fact that true systems change work associated with DEI programs everywhere are no longer business critical or smart as they were in 2020, according to BI.
Okay, here's the thing. They were never business critical. You think that they were morally critical because you cannot see past your moral ideology. But they were never even intended to be morally critical, because inherent in the ideology of social justice is the idea that meritocracy doesn't exist, or is in fact some kind of harmful delusion that needs to be deprogrammed out of society. Given that that is one of the most fundamental axioms of this Hegelian bullshit, and yes, I am calling it Hegelian bullshit. I'm not even going to kowtow to calling it Marxist bullshit anymore, because frankly, Marx added nothing to Hegel's dialectic. All he did was apply an economic skin over it. And in the event that these things are more cultural or historical than they are economic, which they are, they're more accurately definable as Hegelian. But I digress. Given that you force-fed corporations and every other institution that draws its moral compass from academia with this neo-Hegelian nonsense, it was inevitably going to bite them on the ass, because the people espousing it are very explicitly against the notion of meritocracy being taken seriously, and very much against the functioning of capitalism. In many ways, It was explicitly an attempt to destroy capitalism or subvert capitalism from the inside of itself. And you were successful in that, but as a result of you being successful in that aspect of your ideology, the corporations are now pissed at you because you said that this would actually create a not only morally beneficial company, but also a more profitable one. And even Microsoft and Google do have a bottom to their checkbook somewhere. And even though it took 10 years to get to there, we're now actually starting to get to there. It's not going to fix itself as fast as it probably should, because even though they've seen how detrimental it is to their business model, they still believe morally in this ideology, and they're never really going to shake the yoke of it until they start realizing not only that they were financially and like practically wrong, they were also morally incorrect to espouse this ideology in the first place, which would include siding with the people that they were once demonizing. The problem being, once you've spent 10 years demonizing a set of people, it becomes very, very hard to walk that back. Because once you realize how thoroughly you fucked up, you may come to terms with the fact that you might have ruined something and there's no unruining it at this point. Moving on.
Okay. Microsoft is among scores of blue chip companies that sought to bolster their workforces by hiring from a more diverse pool of candidates in the wake of the May 2020 police-involved death of Floyd, a black man who died while being arrested by Minneapolis police. Floyd's death ignited nationwide riots and demonstrations, as well as demands for corporate America to diversify the ranks of its employees. A month after Floyd's death, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella pledged to double the number of African American managers, senior individual contributors, and senior leaders in the U.S. by 2025.
Again, stop fixating on George Floyd. He is only the most recent vector of the problem. If you really want to know just how long the ESG and DEI caterpillar has been cocooning here, you need to go back to about 2013 at the probably latest. Because, you see, social justice started with the vector of intersectional feminism, and only later did it transition to critical race theory and other vectors of critical theory, and also to trans issues. If you really want to walk this back, if you really want to undo this, you have to go back to the era of around and about 2013, and instead of lionizing people like Anita Sarkeesian and demonizing people like Sargon of Akkad, although granted he has gone far afield from where he was back then as well, but instead of lionizing people like Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn and demonizing people like Milo Yiannopoulos and Sargon of Akkad, you need to flip it. You need to side with the irreverent people over the moralistic people, the authoritarianly moralistic people. Because moralistic authoritarianism has never done anything good, and even at its best, morality belongs primarily in the private, individual sphere, not in the public sphere. End of discussion. Once you have internalized that proposition, we might actually start getting somewhere. And by somewhere, I mean back to the standard that once was the 90s, where nobody had the moral whip hand for about 10 years. But until you can fully grasp just how far the termites have dined here, just how far the institutional capture has spun its webs, and just how long this has been going on, you will never get back to the golden mean era of the 90s, where neither the politically correct individuals nor the authoritarian moralistic tradcons held much sway whatsoever. Because that is the actual goal, at least for me. I don't want anyone's morality to be taking precedence over meritocracy. I don't want anyone's moral biases to be dictating the culture. And I don't want anyone's moral dictates to be held so sacrosanct that they can warp every institution they get their hands on. Morality belongs, first of all, in a libertarian sense. Second of all, it belongs in the private sphere, and it should be confined there. The public sphere should concern itself with things like ethics, which is distinct from morality, and meritocracy. If we can get back to there, we might start actually making some progress in the way that that word is supposed to mean, not in the Hegelian thesis-antithesis dichotomy sense, or any of its variants. Moving on.
Right. All right, John Art. Don, you are speaking illogically. You need to drink the Gamer Girl juice and have vapes and super vegan meals.
Never!
Okay. At the time, Nadella declined to specify the number of black managers employed by Microsoft. Last fall, Microsoft released its annual diversity and inclusion report. According to Redmond, Washington-based company, to the Redmond, Washington-based company, it was bolstered its share of women employees by 0.5% from 2022 to 2023.
See, that in and of it.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Yeah. In total, Microsoft, which employs 221,000 people worldwide, said women comprise 31.2% of all employees globally, a 3.6 increase since 2019. The Windows maker said that black employees represent 6.7% of its global workforce, up 2.2% from 2019, while Hispanic employees comprise 8% of the company's workforce.
See, in theory, that sounds okay. If, and only if, they got there by merit. The problem being, the ideology that was once referred to as social justice and is now more commonly referred to as wokeness, which I tend to trace back even further to the Hegelian dialectical view of history, is explicitly anti-meritocracy. The idea is that identity takes precedence over the apparently Western chauvinist value of meritocracy. And as such, no matter what those statistics change to, they will not be the right answer. The correct answer is actually the exact opposite. Instead of hyperfixating on the various iterations and deviations of identity, studies suggest that the most beneficial hiring practice for any workforce is identity blind resumes, identity blind qualifications. Because if you are not allowed to make judgments based on identity, then the thing we can be sure of is that in a system that has identity blind or identity non-specific criteria, then whoever gets there will get there by merit. But in a world that considers the alleged politics of identity and the moral implications thereof, not to mention the demonization of meritocracy, you will wind up in a system where people are promoted not based on their qualifications, merits, or abilities, but based on their moral virtue. And this is an absolutely shit way to run a system that requires the creation or management of product, because meritocracy is an excellent tool for creating the best product. It's a shit tool where moral prescriptions are concerned. So, in absence of any reason to consider moral prescriptions, I say we confine the moral prescriptions to the private sphere, let the public sphere be an open and neutral location where meritocracy and ethics rather than morality are the main watchwords, and then we can go back to a time not too dissimilar from the 90s where the average person was irreverent enough not to give a fuck and everyone was much, much happier because everyone was doing what they were supposed to be doing. Corporations liked their customers and wanted to please them meritocratically, or at least feigned doing so. And customers, as a result of being at least feigned cared for by the corporations, were more than happy to engage with the products sold by said corporations. Now, though, we live in a world where, because of the moral machinations of academia and the activists that spawned from it, companies fucking hate their audience and or customers, and customers, as a result, crave any source of irreverence in the face of this moral authoritarianism they can get their hands on, which only makes the companies hate their audience more, apparently. Moving on. Bless you.
Thank you. Oh, I present. As from Politico.com, Kamala Harris, Gen Z meme queen, written by Anuma Tour. If I say name wrong, I'm sorry, and I'm not good at names.
Mm-hmm. The reason we're covering this is because, much like so many other things, apparently politics can't be separated from culture, even with a fucking scientific centrifuge. So now we live in a world where fucking Politico, of all publications, writes an article about a politician's meme game. Although, while I'm fact-checking and logic-spurging this bullshit, Kamala is a Gen Xer. A very, very, very late Gen Xer. She is 59. The youngest baby boomer is 60 as of this year. The oldest baby boomer is around 78. So anyone above 78 is a silent Gen person, and anyone below 60 is therefore at least a Gen Xer. But Kamala is right on the cusp of still fucking being a boomer. Not to mention a reasonable number of years away from retiring age. And yet we're supposed to think that she's young and hip with all the Gen Zers. Even though everyone fucking hates her guts. But, moving on.
After she announced her 2024 bid, Indian aunties took to social media to post in Sanskrit, Kamala equals lotus. In America, Kamala equals POTUS.
And that was supposed to be a catchy meme. Like, I know what the meme is referring to. It refers to the fact that the name Kamala is very similar to the Sanskrit word for lotus. But one, who outside of India is going to know that? And two, why would it make anyone care? And three, it's requiring someone to be bilingual enough to know the Sanskrit word for lotus is similar to the name Kamala, and also be American enough that the phrase POTUS as a shorthand for President of the United States is in common usage. And that is a very, very narrow group of people. In the parlance of the internet, though, that just looks like overly complicated cringe, is what it looks like to me. And I'm a freaking YouTuber, so I should know. But hey, Brainstormer, you're a Gen Zer. Does this jive with your like meme savvy sensibilities? Because I am still a millennial, so maybe I'm just foreign to this. Is this something that Gen Z would find funny? I'm gonna hazard a guess and say no.
Well, bold of you to assume that I'm a normal Gen Zer. I'm not.
I mean, this is also true.
I'm just scratching my head because I have no fucking clue who this bitch is.
She was the vice president until like last week, and then Joe Biden stepped down, and now she's going to be the Democratic candidate for president in the upcoming election. And they are trying, apparently, to convince us that she's hip. And small print, as the ethnic Kyrgyzstani that I am here, if you have to say that you're hip, you're not hip. If you have to say you're cool, you're not cool. If you have to say you're meme savvy, you're probably not all that meme savvy. And if you have to write articles convincing people that a 59-year-old is for some reason popular with 20-year-olds, I'm going to hazard a guess that the answer to that is also probably they're not. Moving on. Yes, as Jonah points out, this is literally something they've been doing since the 90s. And it's something that a kid show like Fairly Odd Parents used to be able to make fun of, because we were at least aware back then that, again, if you have to say you're cool or hip with the kids, you are neither of those things. Did we lose Brainstormer again? Because I'm not hearing any audio from him. Oh dear. Brainstormer, are you still there? Hello? Either he left or he is having technical difficulties again. In either case, nerds. Further on point, Jonah. Like, I'm probably dating myself just by remembering that the Kekistani meme is a thing, but
Okay, sorry, I'm back. I had to take a call real quick.
okay, no problem. I just
Alright.
I just wondered if it was more technical difficulties or if something like that had happened.
Let me check the server then, Jonah. But okay. Yeah, I don't really. I'll be honest. I'm not really a big meme guy.
I used to be quite meme, uh, meme literate back in about 2017, and I still maintain that most of those memes aged pretty well. Um, my current status as far as my meme education is that I know Riz is a, for some reason, shortened version of charisma, and that is about the depth of my meme savviness as for the Gen Z crowd goes. But be, even I know, even I who haven't updated my meme lexicon since like 2017, 2018, know that this has got to be the most non sequitur cringe bullshit possible. Or to put it in Gen Z terms, this has like antimatter negative Riz. I believe is how the thing is said.
Uh, all right. All right. Almost soon as President Joe Biden endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris on Sunday, America's internet warriors go to work, cranking out meme after meme of the Veep. The Kamala for President memes crafted by Black Twitter, Gen Zers on TikTok, and other denizens of the internet are closely tied to pop culture and viral social media trends, showcasing her quirky interests, Venn diagrams, funny phrases, and girl boss moments.
Okay, and here once again I must do my good duty as a proud member of the nation of Kekistan and point out to you some of the mimetic errors you have made here. One, if you have to make a meme with mucho texto or some obscure academic reference, it's probably not a good meme. Two, yes, Venn diagrams can sometimes be a good meme format, but no one who is this peculiarly attached to a corporate graph structure is probably all that good at memes. And three, must I point this out again, she is 50 fucking 9. Please stop pretending like a large percentage of the youths give a damn about her. The only percentage of the youths that give a damn about her are the ones that have TDS. And I know that because, while I'm not as hip as I once was, say around 2017 or so, I do keep an eye on the ground meme or the ground game of memes, and I have seen exactly 0 organically posted memes. I have seen a few memes of Kamala Harris that were posted by corporate shills or journalists, but reading from the commandments of Kekistan once again here, no meme has ever successfully been made by a journo. If a meme is presented by a journo, it is what we in the good nation of Kyrgyzstan like to call a false meme. In fact, it is an anti-meme. The SCP Foundation should be using them in place of amnestics. That's how much of an anti-meme it is. Moving on.
All right. Uh, these memes and videos are largely served up by Gen Z, a critical block of voters that's been lukewarm on Biden, given concerns about his age and his support for Israel. Many of the memes serve a purpose to propel her to the White House, as at Ritz underscore the TH posted on X. We absolutely must meme this woman into the presidency. This enthusiasm from young voters represents a stark contrast to last week when the Democratic ticket was hemorrhaging support from this demographic. An AP NORC poll reported that those between the ages of 18 and 44 were very dissatisfied with Biden by more than 2 to 1 over Democrats over 45.
The thing with memes, right, is they have to be organic and barring some very, very specific examples, they have to come from the grassroots. And I am sorry, and maybe some Zoomer somewhere can disabuse me of this, but Kamala doesn't have either. Because in the old days, back when I was, for the briefest of moments, savvy on internet culture, um, the meme that went viral on my circles regarding Kamala Harris was the overt, just straight up nuking of Kamala by Tulsi Gabbard in the 2020 Democratic debates. That went viral as shit organically. So far be it from me to say this, but there is no way that any of the memes regarding Kamala Harris from 20-year-olds are organic because, again, the woman is 59. She probably doesn't even know what a meme is. And even if she did, because there are such people who can be mimetic, see also Jordan Peterson, um, even when older people can be mimetic, it's usually people like Tulsi Gabbard who are, actually this thing called likable that go in the mimetic direction. Kamala has the likability of your authoritarian parole officer, largely because, for a large part of her career, she was the authoritarian parole officer that would literally laugh at people who were going to prison on nonviolent drug offenses. Not to mention, in 2012, she laughed at people who tried to get marijuana legalized in California in 2012. This woman is anti-Riz, to put it in modern terms. She's even potentially less likable than Hillary Clinton because at least when you got the when you got vibes from Hillary Clinton, you knew that there was a person behind those eyes who actually was intelligent enough to know that she should at least feign being likable. I'm not certain Kamala even knows how to be likable. I think Hillary has at least a vague idea of how to be likable. She just sucks at it.
Yeah, you gotta stop saying that.
What? I said she had no Riz. She has absolutely negative Riz. That's probably also true, Dragon Turtle. The problem is not going away anytime soon, but it's at least we've at least managed to decapitate one of the heads, and it will happen again with Bridge, and it will happen again with whatever comes after Bridge as well. But um, but it but it's more than we've had for the last 10 years. Again, as far as I, a late millennial, understand it, Riz is short for charisma. Not that charisma really needed to be shortened, but Gen Z is Gen Z. Um, and therefore, when you describe something as having negative Riz, it's essentially saying that someone is a charisma sink, i.e., they suck charisma out of the room that was previously there. Okay. Well, at least tell me if I'm close in my understanding, because Riz is pretty much the only Zoomer term that I know, and I only use it here ironically because we're literally reading an article about memes. And as old as this is going to make me sound, having just turned 29, I don't see why we have to develop new memes. The memes we had were perfectly fine. And praise Keck. And while we're waiting for Brainstormer to come back, I will, I suppose, wait until there are more comments to respond to. Oh, I see. Okay, I get the joke now. Um, but in any case, it's kind of insufferable to me that we even have to talk about politicians' meme game in fucking Politico of all places. But as we were going over earlier, if you have to tell people that you're memetic, it's because you have not successfully gone viral organically on your own, and you had to outsource the job to journos. And no one is memetically repellent more than your average journo. As any descendant of the internet will tell you, journos are a species of person that probably should have been gassed, but wasn't. Not to be confused with actual journalists, of which there are scant few nowadays. The journo has almost entirely replaced the journalist. And therein lies a large part of the problem. And we are still waiting for Brainstormer to come back. I assume he had to reboot his modem again. We are still waiting on Brainstormer to come back. It may, in fact, be a minute. Because if he has to reboot the whole modem and then jump back in again, that usually takes him around 20 minutes. I am open to suggestion topics. Chrono, unfortunately, there is silence because we lost Brainstormer, and he's the one who was sharing screen, so I can't address the topic until he gets back. But you are welcome to fill the comments with points of interest or queries until such time as he gets back, so that we don't have dead air. Because dead air is, as it turns out, about as frustrating as Kamala Harris. Yes, but the day has not yet come where I am comfortable addressing hentai unironically. So, we are not going to be talking about hentai until such time as Japan gets the rights to an H.P. Lovecraft movie. Then, hentai will become, of course, inevitable. But until such a day, I am going to continue only vaguely remembering that hentai exists. And mostly making fun of it. Yeah, the modern state of all award shows, let's be entirely honest with ourselves, um, is just a bureaucratic, bloated nightmare on the face of what was once a decent artistic medium. Because whatever you may make an award show on, chances are that that award show will actually ruin the medium that it is awarding things to now. Because instead of actually being about, things like quality, it's usually about who can morally suck off the egos of the voting groups at this point. Which is why the average award show is cancer at best. Jonah was saying things about hentai in a attempt to get me to talk about hentai at all. And I don't have many scruples left, but I am clinging to that last one, which requires me to never mention hentai without mercilessly mocking it and or pretending that I didn't know it existed. Because I still have the tiniest fraction of self-respect left. And the only acceptable hentai is Lovecraft hentai. Or things derived from Lovecraft hentai. Like Doctor Strange hentai, which is sort of pseudo-Lovecraftian, as are most of his antagonists and so on. But yes, the only acceptable hentai is Lovecraft hentai. The original and best hentai. Yes, they are going to try to come for manga. But I think, honestly, that by the time they actually make any meaningful inroads into manga, we might be actually getting away from it in the West, and Japan will therefore have no reason to adopt it, which means that its stay in Japan will probably be very minimal at best, especially with Ubisoft putting its foot publicly in its mouth and almost causing an international incident, kind of like Netflix did with the Black Cleopatra series. So I think by the time the SJWs would actually make inroads into SGWifying manga or anime, Japan will already be at least somewhat immunized to their shenanigans, which is good because, frankly, after manga goes, the only form of graphic entertainment we'll have left pretty much is bande dessinée, because comics are already on their life support. If we lose manga, then we had best hope that bande dessinée remain unblemished, but bande dessinée are in the hands of the French, which means that, I mean, the only reason that the SJWs can't make bande dessinée any more degenerate than it already is because you can't go much lower than the French. When the French go low, the only other option is to dive into the core of the planet. It's the only place lower than where the French go when they go low. It depends on which version of the multiverse you're going with. If you're going with the scientific multiverse, then yes, that's pretty much accurate. If you're going with the mystical variant on a multiverse, that has more to do with alternate dimensions than it does parallel realities. So, less so. Although people use the word multiverse to refer to mystical shit very seldom, which is probably a good thing, considering that I prefer if multiverses remained a purely scientific concept and didn't drag mysticism and spirituality down with them, but who knows. All I know is I like to imagine universes destroying universes I don't like. I imagine universes that pop into existence specifically to destroy any universe that I don't like, and thereby bring balance to the multiverse. How the hell did we get on the topic of multiverses? I think Jonah was saying that you need at least 4 dimensions to have a multiverse, rather than the other way around, because the other way around would in fact be stupid. You don't need a multiverse to have multiple dimensions, but you do, at least in theory, need multiple dimensions to justify the existence of a multiverse. Uh, yeah, but Jonah, the dimensions that science talks about are different than the ones the magicians and so forth talk about, and we very much did get there first. I don't want to inflame the war between science and magic again, but in the realm of considering the existence of multiple different planes of reality, we got there first by millennia, if not centuries. So yeah, because the mystical minded people have been talking about multiple dimensions since time out of mind, and the scientifically minded people have only started talking about multiple dimensions or universes in the last 200 to 300 years, being generous. I mean, in theory, there's no reason a multiverse has to be infinite other than we default to infinity unless we find a modifier to stop it, scientifically speaking. Um, but yeah, you could have a multiverse that wasn't infinite. I don't see any like logical reason why that necessarily would be untrue. Um, I do think there is probably an infinite multiverse, but logically speaking, you could have a finite of universes, and I don't think it would be a logical problem. It might have a scientific problem, but science doesn't have a monopoly on logic. All sciences, at least in theory, cough cough, never mind Hegel, um, need to be based on logic, but there are many forms of logic that have nothing to do with science, and yet are still true and existent. Like, for example, logical absolutes. Logical absolutes are non-empirical, therefore they are not the domain of science, but they very much are a thing until such time as someone counters that assertion by evidence, which then I suppose would be a scientific concern if someone found a evidence-based reason not to believe in um not not to believe in logical absolutes. But at that point all of reality becomes redundant, because if there is no hard and fast reason to believe in logical absolutes, we're all fucked, essentially. Or we end up breaking like H.P. Lovecraft protagonists, because our brains don't function that way. I'm not saying you can't have an infinite multiverse. I'm saying, at least hypothetically, there's no reason to believe that the only kind of multiverse that exists is an infinite one. For example, as stupid as the New 52 is, as far as DC Comics is concerned, the number of universes usually stands somewhere in the vicinity of 52. Again, as stupid as the New 52 is. In that case, we are categorically dealing with a non-infinite multiverse, which gets even more funny when you consider that if all the various universes wherein multiverse theory is true exist out there somewhere in the multiverse, then the multiverse itself must probably have like a branch structure, because you'd need different sectors of the multiverse to be separate from other sectors of the multiverse. Like, for example, you'd have to have a branched multiverse where one of those branches was the Marvel multiverse, one of those branches was the DC multiverse, one of those branches was the Dresden File multiverse, and et cetera, ad nauseum. And probably the first, you know, multiverse concept, at least in fiction or popular fiction, is Michael Moorcock's Elric multiverse, because he was the one who made the first like literary broaches to the modern concept of a multiverse in fiction. Yeah, which leads to the inevitable thing of, again, the branched multiverse concept, where it's like uh different branches for each separate type of multiverse, which I guess then adds to yet another question of if there is a branched multiverse, which branch of that multiverse are we in, and how far away from other universes or other multiverses that we're aware of is that branch? I don't think dimensions are infinite. Because okay, the way I tend to look at dimensions is that each universe bubble is like an onion, and the different dimensions within that universe are layers of that onion. However many onions you have is not material, but the um the inter-universe dimensions probably can't be infinite. Um, the extra universal dimensions probably are if we live in an infinite multiverse, but the intra-universe dimensions have to have a limit somewhere because otherwise it would be layers on top of layers on top of layers. And then
Hello?
you run into the issue. Yeah, sorry. Brainstormer's back. I don't know why, but for some reason Jonah decided to open up the multiverse can of worms, and that therefore became the chat for a while.
Okay, I'm back.
I assume you had to reboot your modem again.
Multiple times, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very close to punting that motherfucker out the window.
Yep, as I figured you probably would be. Anyway, shall we continue with the thing?
Yeah. Hello, Chrononaut. Good to see you. Let me just get that up and running. I'm not gonna lie, I was legitimately yelling in absolute like fury and rage by how much how fucking it took me to do this.
I am, of course, not surprised by this because this has unfortunately become a regular occurrence on our show. Anyway,
All right, give it a second to load.
Back
Give it
to
a second to load.
cringing at what Kamala Harris's PR team thinks are memes.
Right. Trying to. Okay. Yeah. There we are. All right. Give me 1 second. There we go.
Bless you again.
Thank you. All right. While the presidential debate in June spotlighted concerns surrounding Biden's fitness, in reality, both Biden and Trump have dealt with concerns surrounding their age. The most recent ABC News / Washington Post / Ipsos poll revealed that 60% of Americans say Trump is too old for a second term.
I would be curious about those numbers because the problem with statistics is that there are very, iconically lies, damn lies in statistics, i.e., statistics can be manipulated. And being that statistics can be manipulated, it becomes very hard to actually trust statistics unless you look deeper into their methodologies and their samplings and their biases and so on. I find it rather hard to believe that given that at least 49% of the country is in favor of Trump getting a second turn, that 60% of it would think that. I'm guessing there is a bias because the pollsters wanted a particular result. Especially considering that Trump is only the age Biden was the last time he got elected. So, at the very least, evidence dictates that he does at least have one more term in him. We can have the conversation about the gerontocracy and how we really shouldn't keep electing people who are above retirement age to oversee the country, because it's a very important job that requires a lot of neuroplasticity that such people tend not to have.
Ugh.
Anyway, moving forward.
God, I feel like I really missed a really interesting conversation while I was gone.
It was less interesting and more just kind of pedantic, I guess is the best word to phrase it. Because I still can't for the life of me figure out where Jonah pulled the multiverse topic out of. Although,
Everything's multiverse these days.
which again, as I mentioned earlier, probably results in some kind of branching phenomena where there are like branches of the multiverse. Because you have different self contained multiverses in different fictional universes, which multiverse theory suggests exist out there somewhere. So the multiverse must have some kind of branching structure. Because otherwise those multiverses couldn't be
Right.
self-contained, and they evidently are. So, nah.
All right.
But
Like
moving
altered.
moving back to the topic before we
Right.
go down that rabbit hole again.
All right. But with Biden stepping aside, the game has been fundamentally altered. Trump is now the oldest presidential nominee in history, giving Harris the opportunity to present herself as a candidate more in touch with America's youth. She is not.
Again, Trump is actually the same age Biden was when he ran in 2020. So, I don't know what you're playing at. Also, the man got freaking shot at and had apparently enough energy to fucking Breakfast Club fist the sky afterwards. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say he has enough energy to do the job. I think that's a pretty reasonable threshold. If you can successfully be shot at and have enough presence of mind, and not to mention physical energy, to fucking punk rock your way to iconic picture status, you probably have enough cognizance to run the country, or at least more so than people who don't have the ability to get shot and then immediately roll into punk rock levels of memery. Speaking of people who actually do have a solid meme game, that Trump picture of him at the rally breakfast clubbing the sky is actually an iconic meme. And you can tell the difference because no one had to make it iconic. It just organically was. Whereas every effort that I've seen to try and make Kamala Harris likable is bureaucratically managed to hell and back. And bureaucracies aren't good at memes, as a general rule. Moving on. Unless Brainstormer had to leave again. Oh dear. And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting again. There's enough waiting in this episode for it to be one of the worst episodes of SpongeBob. I'm going to assume that because Brainstormer's icon is still there, he just got called away for some reason. And it wasn't yet another technical crash. We shall see if I am correct. Brainstormer, are you there? Oh dear. Still continuing
No,
with
I'm
the
still
wait.
here. Just give me one moment.
Okay. We are continuing to wait again. Hmm. I don't know if it's the waiting or if it's just being tired, but I, for some reason, feel as if I need to yawn. I'm going to try not to. I've already done it too many times.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry, I that time I just had to disappear real quick to handle a few things off screen. So,
Mm-hmm.
apologize.
Related to the previous thing that you had to disappear for, or not really?
Uh, yes and no.
Okay. Um. Anyway, continuing on.
Yeah. As these memes have surged in the past few days, Harris's campaign seems to be embracing these depictions, how earning tens of millions of views by creating content that plays into popular Gen Z trends.
Um.
Here,
Again, I have not seen any of this, which granted might be a sampling bias on my part, considering that I tend to avoid Kamala Harris like the plague that she is. But then again, I'm not a Zoomer, so Brainstormer, your thoughts as a Zoomer?
I, dude, I'm gonna be honest. This is the first time I ever heard about this woman.
Oh my. Well, the Zoomer in our midst is giving a contradictory result there, Politico, so you might be trying to astroturf something, as the old saying goes, and I don't think it's working. You can you can claim she's popular all you like, but if it doesn't actually translate into this wonderful phenomenon we call reality, it means nothing. And no amount of wishing that it be so will make it so. It might make it more likely to be so, in the sense that if you try and force it hard enough, maybe some people who are easily suggestible might become convinced that it is so, but it still won't make it so.
Moving on.
Hmm.
All right. Here are a few highlights. Climbing the coconut tree. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you. Ironically, this Kamala Harris quote from last minute went viral because it was taken out of context and presented as sort of the
Mm.
shots.
It's not very mimetic. I'm afraid I'm going to have to question once again its meme status, because there are memes about falling out of things, like for example, have you just fall off turnip truck? But I didn't know that did you just fall out of the coconut tree was a thing. It also seems slightly too wordy to make it very mimetic. Unlike, do you think I just fell off a turnip truck? Which, both because of its accent that frequently goes with it and its shortness, is at least quick enough to be mimetic.
Hello?
Yeah, we're still here.
Okay. Sorry. Things went weird there. Where did I start to cut out?
Um, as far as I was aware, you stopped talking, but it didn't really register like a cutout. It just sounded like you stopped talking. Um, we lost you after the thing about falling out of the coconut tree and how it went viral because it was taken out of context or something like that. Oh, again. God damn it.
Okay, so I don't know because things went weird on my end. Like, looked like everything was buffering and stuff.
Okay.
So you
So
know what? I'm just for the sake of it, I am just gonna read the article. We're not gonna have it up for the moment to see if that.
yeah, that might help. Who knows?
All right, because there's not really any images or anything here.
Hmm.
Okay, so blast from the. Oh wait, let me reread the climbing the coconut tree. Unless you had anything to say about that.
Again, I made my comment already. Well, apparently things were weird on your end.
All right.
There are occasionally memes about things falling out of other things, but the only meme that I can think of that involves falling out of something is "Do you think I just fell off a tonnet truck?" which is mostly a meme because partially due to its quickness and partially due to funny accent, it actually is somewhat meme worthy. I don't think that the thing about coconut trees has much meme potential. I could be wrong, of course, but I haven't seen anyone talk about it. And I'm pretty good at lurking on the internet, so if it were a thing, it probably would have shown up somewhere in my newsfeed somewhere. Because unfortunately, I happen to know where a bunch of insufferable people lurk on Facebook, which is the normie meme platform. So if it were going to show up anywhere, especially it being a forced Kamala meme, it probably would have shown up on my Facebook, but it didn't show up there.
Excuse me.
Moving on.
Yep. Blast from the past. Compilations have also emerged to represent Harris's most memorable moments, including her love of good news and yellow school buses. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
I don't even know what that is, and I've been following Kamala and her meteoric rise to bullshit. Um, this is the issue. This fundamentally is the dead heart of the issue here. She's not likable or interesting enough to be worthy of a meme, and any memes that are like actually catchy about her are negative. Like the most mimetic thing that ever happened that involved her was her getting goddamn scalped by Tulsi Gabbard on live television during the uh, Democratic candidate debates of 2020. Um, Given that she was, at the time of the Tulsi Gabbard incident, riding at about 15% of the vote, and then after the great Tulsi Gabbarding, she dropped to just over 3% of the vote, which means she dropped by a factor of 5 from one debate between her and Tulsi Gabbard. Which, by the way, if I were giving mimetic advice to the Trump campaign, find that clip of Tulsi Gabbard going over Kamala Harris's record. Make a freaking ad about it. Make a smear ad against Kamala about it. That is a winning maneuver, sir. If you want my advice, anyway. Because all Tulsi did there was literally just say how shit Kamala's record was, and she had the fucking receipts. So go with that. Which, by the way, would have also been a reason to pick Tulsi Gabbard rather than J.D. Vance as your VP, Mr. Trump. But I don't get consulted in these matters because I would have paid so much pay-per-view money just to watch Tulsi and Kamala go at it again, wherein Kamala would obviously be goddamn decimated. Moving on.
All right. Live from New York, with Harris potentially a step closer to the White House, folks on the interwebs are campaigning for another woman of color, Maya Rudolph, who's played the Veep on Saturday Night Live. Okay?
I'm sorry, but it's not 20 years ago anymore. And 20 years ago or so was the last time Saturday Night Live, or even like late night television in general, was relevant to anything. Like, again, this proves just how out of touch the person who wrote this article is, because I hate to break it to you, most people don't even have terrestrial TV anymore. Almost everyone has some version or other of streaming as their primary source of televised content. Like, I don't know of anyone who still watches late night TV, because the boomers are quite frankly too old to watch late night TV, as are the silent generation. The Gen Xers and anyone below the Gen Xers probably don't even have any interest in watching late night TV anymore, especially because we know how much late night comedians are just soulless political and or corporate shills with no sense of humor between them, for the most part. Moving on.
Right. What's on the menu? The internet also was quick to weigh in on a jab at the roster of Harris's potential vice presidential nominees, as the majority of them are white men. Okay.
Okay. Again, this is a negative meme against Kamala, and it's the only one that's even approached being funny. The joke there, of course, being that the Democrats are currently so soulless and corporatist that they can't beget an organic positive reaction to anything, because the large majority of the charismatic or interesting people have left the party or are persona non grata in the party. Andrew Yang left the party. Tulsi Gabbard left the party. Bernie Sanders is too old and he sold out 2 times, so nobody wants him anymore. Ro Khanna, they would never run. Michael Bloomberg might have the bombastic billionaire potential to counter Trump's charisma if they would run him, but they wouldn't run him because the actual base of the Democratic Party hates his guts. Tina Turner has very little charisma of her own. Cornel West is running third party. Cenk Uygur is too small and unknown of a person to the normies to actually function as a candidate. So, yeah, pretty much everyone who has the potential to be charismatic enough to be a good nominee for the Democrats is either persona non grata in the party or has straight up left the party. So that is the unfortunate position the Democrats find themselves in. But this isn't helping Kamala, because she, again, peaked at 15% in 2020 and spent most of the rest of the race running at 3%, and yet somehow backstabbed and wheeled and dealed her way to the level of vice president, and now presidential nominee, assuming. Moving on.
All right. Dance party. While Harris's speech in the wake of Biden dropping out of the race honored the president's service, the internet sought to represent the other side of the coin, the presumed excitement that Harris might be feeling. Okay?
Okay, but the thing is, her excitement was presumed because she doesn't have a strong enough personality to actually convey that excitement. Again, this is a negative for Kamala that you are trying to frame as a positive because your premise is that she's popular among the Gen Z set. And I see very little evidence to that, and I see a lot of evidence to the contrary that you are trying desperately to frame as evidence in the affirmative. Moving on.
All right. 360 election season. This summer has been widely dubbed by Gen Z to be Brat Girl Summer in reference to pop singer Charlie XCX's hit album Brat. Fan edits of Harris have been remixed to many pop artists, including Taylor Swift, Beyonce, and Chappelle Roan, with Charlie XCX herself tweeting Kamala is Brat. Okay.
I have heard of this. This is a thing I'm aware that Gen Z was doing, but that has the hurdle of, to literally everyone else who has ever heard the word brats, it's a negative. In fact, I can foresee a situation where Kamala tries to get hip with the kids' points by using brat as a slang, and Trump is just going to take that and return brat to its original meaning, and it's going to make Kamala look worse. Because and this is the thing, it's next to impossible to make this person likable, because she is one of the few people on the planet who is less likable than Hillary Clinton. And that is a low bar to slide under to begin with. Moving on.
Yep. Wake up, warriors. While many memes center Harris herself, there is also renewed energy to depict how Democrats will be mobilizing in her support, including black women and members of the Divine Nine, a network of historically African American fraternities and sororities that Harris herself was a part of in college. Okay.
Here's a little teeny tiny problem. A lot of black voters are going for Trump because of how it looks like the establishment used lawfare against him and then tried to get him shot, which gives Trump quite a lot of organic gangsta energy. And in general, the quote-unquote black community, which isn't even a thing, but never mind, leans more in lionizing gangstas than it does middle-aged harpies, which is what Kamala is. Like, she's literally 1 year away from being 60. Stop trying to act like she has youthful energy, guys. It's not gonna happen. Stop trying to make fetch a thing. It's not a thing. And yes, that was a Mean Girls reference. But it's appropriate because we're talking about memes. Yeah, the Kamala the cop thing is not doing her any favors either. She's known to be one of the most sadistically harsh prosecutors in California's history, while Trump was raked over the legalistic coals for several months and then shot at. If you're looking for who has gangster energy, this is about as cut and dry as it could possibly be. One of these is a shrewish middle-aged parole officer cop, and the other is someone who was demonized by the establishment and then shot at.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on.
Okay. I think it's just one left. Yeah. Trump is not like us. Many memes are also closely tied to Hollywood celebrity culture, including playing off the viral feud between rappers Drake and Kendrick Lamar, Lamar is widely considered by Gen Z to have won the battle, adding significance to the depiction of Harris as Lamar.
I mean, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Even assuming that was how Gen Z took that, which I really doubt that journos have the capacity. Journos writing for Politico probably aren't that hip with the kids, so to speak. So I'm questioning how actually accurate any of these takes are. But even assuming that some version of this is true, objection relevance to anyone. Even if you're going by like the memes, this isn't mimetic. This isn't fodder for memes. It's not exciting. It's not likable. It's not engaging. It doesn't make an interesting or like satirical point. It doesn't speak to a aspect of life that is new to culture. Like I don't. Where is the meme? On what is the meme actually supposed to be founded? I'm confused because despite this entire article's premise being that she's hip with the kids, um, all this article has pretty much done is show to me just how out of touch with the kids she is. Now, mind you, I'm on the very like last edge of millennial here, so I might be out of touch with the Zoomers myself, but a lot of the Zoomers are still too young to vote. So what does it even fucking matter if she has the meme game among the average TikTok user, especially when you consider that Trump has just as much, if not more, meme savviness, and his is arriving a lot more organically. Whereas hers is coming from a personality that died cold and alone many years ago because she was too busy being one of the worst prosecutors in California's history.
All right. Hold on. Well, that was the end of that article.
Thank God.
Now we
Don't
move on.
don't blame me, blame Politico. We shouldn't have to focus on the meme game of politicians, but Politico apparently thought it was important.
All right. So this is all right. This is what I want to talk about. Kind of. We talked. Nope, motherfucker.
For thousands of years, we have been at war.
Sorry. I don't know why the fuck it does that. Okay. So this was Transformers 1 official trailer. Is it? Can anyone see it?
Yes.
Okay. I know we had like a whole debacle regarding Transformers, and I will admit, Dalton, the thing I was talking about was a relatively recent thing within the last decade of like this whole different continuity. So I think most of the time it is very much the same. Like your whole grand epicness, I think that is the general, like, just overall thing.
I was gonna say I didn't think I was that out of touch. Granted,
no, I don't
this
know.
yeah. Granted, this isn't exactly one of my top franchises or anything, but I didn't think I was that out of touch.
But I will say, granted, I have seen growing up. I saw I saw a lot of different interpretations of Transformers, so I have like a very like broad sense of everything in terms of Transformers lore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because there were like various cartoons coming out at the time.
And then of course the Michael Bay movies would have been peaking around the time of your childhood.
Yeah, and the comics. So you gotta excuse me if I confuse stuff because I think that was kind of what was happening.
Okay.
Just given the fact that
as long as I wasn't doing the "How do you do, fellow kids" thing.
All right. Yeah, it was a misunderstanding. I agreed, Dragon Turtle. Obviously, this is another different interpretation of Transformers 1. Of Transformers with Transformers 1.
I think the one thing we managed to agree on was the like modernistic humor wasn't doing it any
the
favors.
tone. The tone felt a little off, right?
Yeah. I think trying to make it so overtly a comedy backfired on them hard.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, Transformers can be funny, obviously.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but humor has never really been the main focus of Transformers. Whether you're going with the like the new version, the Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X version, or you're going with the more like grandiose, like high fantasy with technology version, it's still more like action cartoony than it is comedy. Most of the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Granted, I grew up with kind of the superhero version with Transformers anime. That's the one I remember most.
Hmm.
And that had a lot of comedy. It was like American anime, kind of, with like a lot of the expressions, the designs.
That was the one with the little girl in it, right?
Sorry. A human Cybertronian hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Get your minds out of the gutters if you think why she's a half human, half Cybertronian.
I vaguely remember that series. I might have caught an episode or two of that. I didn't watch it a lot.
I doubt. Yeah, it's protoform that got into to answer Dragon Turtle's question. Protoform that got in touch with a human DNA sample, like a human touched a protoform and it formed into a human girl.
So sort of like Eunice from Ben 10.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. That fills in that gap in my knowledge.
Yeah. But yeah. Although I think everyone agreed that Chris Hemsworth voicing Optimus Prime or Ryan Pax, like he sounds like a younger Peter Cullen, right?
It works. Yeah.
Like he was the best casting, I think, if you're going to do a different voice actor for Optimus.
On the other hand, they probably should have just gone with the original.
Well, no, I mean Peter Cullen, he's older now and he has like more deeper kind of voice. I don't think he could have, because it's supposed to be Optimus before he becomes like the great hero that he is, right?
This is true. Maybe they could have pitch shifted it down.
I don't know. I think in this trailer it sounds a lot better because I had watched it before I sent it because I was wondering if I should send it or not. Actually, wait, hold on. Now I'm trying to remember if I'm trying to do it again because I need to check if I actually made sure the audio was shared too.
Yeah, we heard it when it accidentally played for that minute there. So
okay, God damn it, piece of shit.
But I forget our pause phrase. Did we go with Energon? I think we went with Energon.
Silesium Salami. In the Transformers, the movie from the 80s, the Dinobots were having a full conversation about beryllium bologna and silesium salami. I don't know what it is, but it's a joke and it's stuck a long time.
I think I would have remembered if we did that the last time. I think our pause
I don't think
was
we did.
Energon.
I don't think we did that, but I kind of want to do it now just because I remembered it.
Okay.
And it
you're gonna have to be in charge of that because I don't think I can. I don't think I can say that fast enough.
Okay, silesium salami.
Yeah, I think that either it will take too long or I'll get tongue-tied from saying it too fast. So you're gonna have to be in charge of that one.
I mean, you could also say beryllium bologna. I don't think that's. I think that's a less of a tongue tire.
Still, that's going to have to be all you, sir. I am very foreign to that particular joke. I don't know where it comes from, but I will take your word for it that
Transformers.
it is a thing.
Transformers, the movie. You know, when they revealed Unicron and all that.
Okay, now that you mention it, I do remember that scene. It's
I'm
still a bit. It's still a bit too much. Still a bit too much for me, I think.
All right. Okay, it's 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Shall we? Oh wait, hold on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Volume. This thing has no captions for some reason. Like the captions are off. I don't know why.
Huh.
Anyway, Silesium salami. Okay.
I suppose. Like I said, I'm just gonna let you do that one because I can't do it.
The fact that you're not even willing to try is disappointing.
Also, bologna and salami takes my mind to weird places because
I don't want to know. Silesium
the
salami.
the the, ine- the
No.
inevitable dick jokes are
God
entering my
damn it!
brain.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know, man.
This is why I let you take the lead on this one because I just can't.
Silesium salami.
For thousands of years, we have been at war. But before, we were enemies. We were like brothers. You ready?
Always ready. Let's punch in. Hey, watch where you're going.
What did you say? It's not like you can.
See, again, I think Chris Hemsworth, if they're going to do anyone else, but other than, I mean, there are some other people too, but
No, he sounds good.
yeah.
I just I say let the original voice for Optimus Prime do it for as long as he feasibly can. But I mean, Chris Hemsworth sounds good, and he's also doing good at making his sort of pseudo-American accent sound okay.
Yeah. I gotta say, I think we mentioned before the animation isn't bad, right?
No, it's just the tone and the humor that doesn't really work.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, so far nothing too egregious. I will say, weirdly enough, I almost sort of get like in terms of the tone and stuff, trailer wise, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It does have
anyone else?
it does have a very similar tone to that. You're right.
Right. I also want to mention this. I kind of want to retract the whole we were given that movie when we watched those trailers because those trailers honestly were super shit. I had actually watched the movie recently, like about a month or so ago, and I rather enjoyed it.
So it's a case of a really bad trailer misrepresenting a decent movie.
Yeah, and so that's why I'm considering right now if the trailer comes off as bad.
Giving it the same benefit of the doubt until we have reason to do otherwise.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Because oftentimes when they try to put comedy in a trailer, most often it never works, right?
Yeah,
it's completely out of context.
They keep trying to like replicate the fast talking comedy of like Marvel movies, and it almost never works. But anyway, do the thing because I'm not even going to attempt it.
Silesium salami.
Transform. Hey, Darkwing.
Oh, my finger can transform. Guess which one? Allow me.
I appreciate you having my back.
No matter what.
Did they just make a middle finger joke in a
What
Transformers
is that?
movie?
Sending location coordinates. We're under attack.
Yeah, and it was. I think this is interesting. I mean, oftentimes, we see the more older, more
Dignified?
heroic, also version of Optimus Prime. And I just find it interesting that here, again, he's young, which makes sense. He doesn't grow. He hasn't gone through like the full hero's arc yet, or hero's journey.
Uh-huh. There's something very immersion breaking about Transformers. First of all, it's immersion breaking that Transformers even have the same gesture for their, equivalent of flipping someone off. But also, like, they put a middle finger joke in a Transformers movie, and my brain is just rejecting it wholesale, I think.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but
Again, like you say, it might be one of those attempts to make a movie that's better than the trailer makes it look like cringier than it is, but it's still cringy. As it is currently presented, I find it cringe.
right.
Hello to Chris. I don't know which Chris is because I don't recall seeing him before. But there's someone named Chris J in the comments, and I'm not familiar with who he is. The only Chris that I know off the top of my head would be Oz Chris, but he hasn't been around in years, so I don't know who it is.
Anyway, shall we Silesium Salami?
You can. I am still not even going to attempt it because it will either tongue tie me ridiculously, or I will have to end it with giggity, and nobody wants either of those things.
All right. Silesium Salami.
Giggity.
An SOS message from the surface.
Fantastic.
It's time to show them we are more than meets the eye.
A cave with teeth. Nothing scary about that. Holy Primus.
I see strength in you. Take these and access.
The modern
So,
jokes. I just can't deal with the modern jokes.
I don't know if it's really modern jokes.
It's-
On Breaking, your channel just popped up.
Well, welcome. Please feel free to watch the older episodes as well. They should be under the live tab because for some reason YouTube has decided that all live streams go in their own tab and can't just be listed under videos anymore.
But Giant Turtle saying earlier, not as bad as other things, but has that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe. Yeah, I'm getting that too. Kinda.
Yeah,
I think we mentioned
it's very much it's very much trying to do Guardians and not succeeding is what's going on there. I think.
Again, it could be the trailer, so I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It could be a bad trailer for an otherwise decent movie, but I have to go off of what I'm being presented with, and what I'm being presented with keeps dragging me kicking and screaming out of the movie. So it's not looking good so far. I hope we're wrong because I would actually rather be wrong about good things and not and
Not be
and
right about bad things.
yes, because that is always how it happens. It always seems to be that I'm right when things are bad and wrong when I think things might have the potential to be good. And I don't like that. I like when I kind of think something's going to be bad, but it turns out being good.
Hmm.
Like Black Adam and
Um,
Multiverse of Madness. Those were I had dread for both of those movies, and they both ended up being flawed, but still pretty damn good, at
mhm.
least as far as I'm
um,
concerned.
so the wise bot here, I don't know, because design wise, he looks somewhat like Cyclonus, which depending on what version of Cyclonus they want to use. But I'm going to hazard a guess that it's Alpha Trion, which was the mentor. It was like one of the older bots. He fought against the Quintessons and was a mentor to Optimus Prime when he was on Orion Pax.
Mm.
Hell, I think no. Well, no, was a mentor to Orion Pax, and even made Orion Pax like in G1 continuity, made Orion Pax like rebuilt Orion Pax into Optimus Prime.
Again, I will have to take your word for that because Transformers isn't really in my wheelhouse.
Alpha
I'm
Trion is
looking for
basically like a Merlin. I'm not gonna lie, man. Alpha Trion is basically like a Merlin.
okay. I mean that works, I suppose. Um, but yeah, Transformers really isn't my franchise. This was brainstormer suggestion of a topic to cover. I'm more looking forward to the next trailer. But
And you call yourself a nerd, good sir.
hey, I admitted that Transformers wasn't my wheelhouse, and this one is trying, I think, to do modern quip humor, and it's not. It so far isn't working. It might work better in the actual movie, but whoever was in charge of editing this trailer and the previous one is, for some reason, fixating on the cringe parts.
Right. Weirdly enough, I think if we're going quippy, if that's how you define modern, Transformers Animated did quippy pretty well, actually.
It's not enough to simply be quippy. It has to essentially stop the seriousness of the plot dead in order to be
Okay, so in
modern
definition of
quippy.
right, yeah, okay, in
Because
definition of modern
I
quippy.
mean,
Okay, got it.
the Glen Origami Teen Titans had humorous moments and them being teenagers, but it didn't ever cut down on the like tone of the series or stop the plot dead. Whereas these kind of movies, for some reason, either they are those kind of movies, or the trailer is edited in such a way to make us think that kind of movie. And in either case, given that the purpose of a trailer is to make you want to watch the movie, this trailer is not succeeding in that endeavor.
Mm. All right, shall we? I also, to be fair, Don, well, no, I don't think you would. Giant Turtle, I would recommend. I might send this to you actually, maybe after podcast. But if you're as big a Transformers fan as I'm guessing you are, given the stuff we've talked about in the comments, like even when we were watching Transformers One, uh,
Yeah, that's a pretty serviceable definition of what I mean when I say modern quippy Dragon Turtle. The 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 quip must stop the plot dead and break any sort of immersion in the meta in order to be a modernist quip.
but there is a web comic like fan comic on the internet, like on DeviantArt, that I've been reading lately. That takes like Transformers Prime, but does it through the lens of Shattered Glass continuity. And for those who don't know what Shattered Glass continuity is, it's Well, it's the evil. It's the reverse roles and fates of universe. A mirror universe thing that is actually like a thing that was made.
So it's like an Earth 3 or Mirror Mirror from Star Trek type scenario.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Anyway, shall we continue?
Yeah, but I should send that to you, man. I think you'd enjoy it. It's still ongoing, but it's got a lot of chapters already. But yeah, Silesium Salami.
Giggity.
Your full potential.
We can transform now.
How do we use these things?
Come on.
How you choose to use this power is up to you. We roll out.
What?
Louder.
Transform and roll out.
I will
The
admit
meta.
No, I think that one's fine because he says it quietly. I don't like in an open
Right,
area.
okay.
It's
But
like
still,
Rocket
it's
League
like
Inverse.
but like it's that kind of, it's not just humor, it's humor that like undermines the ability to stay immersed in the story. And deliberately undercutting moments that should be epic with quips.
Again, that's fair. That's completely fair. I get that. I understand.
Anyway, shall we move on?
Yep. Silesium Salami.
Giggity.
I want to help build a better world. Like you said, we can be so much more.
Maybe it's just me, but he's different.
Yeah, no, I picked up on that. I picked up on that too.
I do have to say now, when they're showing the scenes of Megatron starting to like go darker.
Yeah, that works.
Brian Tyree Henry, played Fastos and Lemon in Bullet Train. Fastos from the Eternals and Lemon from Bullet Train. Great actor. But the first trailer, he was being too comedic, right?
Yeah.
But here, when he's being a little more serious, a little more darker and stuff, his
menacing.
His voice really works.
Yeah. When you actually have to bring the menacing energy of the slow corruption of, I don't know Megatron's previous name and I refuse to learn it because I don't like that plot point.
Okay, so answer your question, Retro. I would say the form. Well, no, it seems like it's for the elite or something, because the guards earlier, before, when like the one that was going to punch Orion, because that's who he is right now. Said you can't even transform, which implies other Transformers can transform, or Cybertronians, I guess, would be the better term here. So it does seem like they're blending a lot of continuity and ideas and concepts together to make their own thing here, which I'm fine with. I'm just curious on how it's all going to blend together, because sometimes it can be disjointed, right? So
especially if they're going to throw in a lot of meta modern type humor.
Yeah. So no, it's not the first time anyone is doing it. I just think the main characters that we were seeing couldn't before. Like maybe they were of a lower caste system, because it looked like Orion and Megatron, or maybe he was going by Megatronus. I'm not too sure, depending. Or maybe D16. There's also another
Was that
name he went.
was that his like original model name or whatever the fuck?
For Megatron, in the IDW continuity, which is the one we was having like a huge debate on last time, that was what he was referred to. He didn't technically have a name yet. He's referred to as
Okay.
D16. I don't know if they're doing that now, but because they're looking like they're just regular manual workers, which
Mhm.
to me it would have made more sense if the lower cast could transform, while the elite, well, it would be seen as, well, no. Either way, it's manual laborers and stuff. I don't get, but I will say, yeah, it does seem a little not well explained in this on how it all works yet.
Mhm.
So again, I'm going to chop that up to kind of a poor storytelling in a trailer right now, just to give it
Mhm.
the benefit, just to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Whether this movie turned out to be any good or not, whoever made both this trailer and the previous one,
Sucked.
sack them entirely, sack them.
Yeah. All right. But it does look like this movie's going to focus on the bond of Orion and, I'm just going to call him Megatron, because in one continuity he took the name of one of the primes, specifically the Fallen, when he was a gladiator in the pits of Kaon.
Which, I mean, probably was a sign of Megatron's emerging evil that he chose the name of the Fallen to begin with.
Although I'm not sure in that continuity, which was the Align continuity with like the Transformers Prime and stuff,
Mhm.
if it was the Fallen,
Okay,
because
well
it was one of the 13 original primes, which are seen as like, I don't know if they're seen as, well, Prime is seen as the god that I think they're revered as like similar to saints or something.
yeah, somewhere in the hierarchy of divinity, regardless.
Yeah.
But if he did take the name of the Fallen Prime, then that does essentially mean that like the seeds of evil were probably always in Megatron somewhere.
Well, to be fair, he technically never had a chance, I guess.
I mean, this is also true, but it's an interesting angle, if nothing else, because usually you either get the villain was born to be pure evil and then just became, actualized into that evil, or you get the tragic hero or the tragic fallen villain who, had the potential to be good once upon a time, but was just, kicked in the balls by life over and over. It seems like they might be going, if that's the angle they go with, it seems like they might have gone with, there was always something not quite right in his head, but then life, did a number on him anyway, and the latent potential for evil rose to the
Yeah,
top.
I think Drantrell says it best here when I was trying to describe the primes. Think of the primes like the Primarchs or demigods, and Primus and Unicron are capital G gods, and the primes are somewhere between Adam and Eve, or your Hercules figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Although I am also curious where the Quintessons fit in that, because in some continuities, the Quintessons are said to be the creators of the Transformers, like the Cybertronians and stuff.
Which would ipso facto make them the literal creator gods if we're going by that logic.
Well, they were just an alien race, like that enslaved their creations.
Right, but like from the Cybertronian perspective, they would be the closest thing they would have to creator gods.
Yeah. Although
kind of like speaking of 40K, in the way that the old ones were viewed by the Eldar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, shall we? Silesium Salami.
Giggity.
You are a child. dear sir. Like you are.
I am sorry. This is already a franchise I am unfamiliar with. So, and talking of anything that phallic gets you a giddy or phrasing.
You
I
are.
could have I could have gone with phrasing.
Yeah, you could have. Anyway, Elysium Salami. Shut up.
Phrasing.
What happened to my best friend?
Burn it down! All of it!
We have to stop him.
We could have built the future together.
I don't think so.
See, this part is actually pretty good because it actually is being like letting the drama and
It's attempting to be serious for a minute here.
yeah, and I think it's working.
I think if they led with this sort of tone, it would have gone over better.
Again, I think all the voice actors are like doing well. Like I don't know why the first trailer made it seem like really it was only Chris Hemsworth who was doing like the best job.
Mm-hmm. Again, whoever it was behind the editing of the previous trailer or this one probably should be sacked and replaced with somebody else in future.
All right. Okay. G1 had the Quintessons as their creators. Okay. I usually prefer Megatron that do that. There was always that darkness inside him, but only showed later on in their struggles. He started out as a noble cause, but just got darker and darker as he easily compromised more and more morally and indulged his darker side.
Kind of like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal continuity.
Yeah. God, Age of Resistance was such a good show.
Yeah, why the fuck didn't it get a season 2? Fucking Batwoman got a season 2, but Dark Crystal Age of Resistance did not get a season 2.
Right. Although I am curious. Well, no, never mind. But because Optimus and Alita 1, who is, I believe, being voiced by Scarlett Johansson here.
Oh, good for ScarJo. She's actually pretty good as a voice actress. She was the voice of Samantha in Her.
I remember you never shut up about that movie when you can bring it up.
That movie's awesome, man.
I know. I'm just saying. It's like one of those few things that when you get talking about it, you don't stop.
Because that movie is freaking awesome. And I was at a time and place in my life at that point where I was very, very depressed. And Her basically single-handedly reaffirmed my faith in movies.
Fair enough. All right. Shall we?
Yeah,
Silesium Salami. Shut up.
phrasing.
Decepticons! Rise up! Incoming!
Come on!
Awesome!
That's what
I will say Michael Key, I think it is. Yeah, no, it's Michael
Mhm.
Key.
Hmm.
I just don't think he works as Bumblebee.
No, the thing is, he's not even attempting to do the voice. To Chris Hemsworth's credit, and even ScarJo's credit, they're doing voices so that you don't immediately go, "That's the voice of Black Widow" or "That's the voice of Thor."
And even Brian Tyree Henry, you know, he's he's not playing himself. You know, he's
Yeah,
playing the character.
He's putting on a voice so that the character's voice is distinct from his own.
Yeah.
Although in fairness, he might have been able to get away with using his just regular voice because he's not well.
Well, no, I
and
think he is kind of. I think he is. It's just obviously he's being a lot more dramatic with it, obviously because of the
yeah,
character's
which works for the character. But yeah, it doesn't seem like Keegan Michael Key is making any attempt at all
Although
to do a
he could be
voice.
playing, well, since it's Transformers 1, he could be playing more in line to the original Bumblebee, who, like from the original cartoon, right, Generation 1,
Mhm.
because I'm not gonna lie, that Bumblebee was kind of both a dickhead and an annoying piece of shit.
Yeah, a lot of versions of Bumblebee unfortunately wind up being the annoying comic relief character. Cough, cough, Michael Bay movies. The Travis Knight Bumblebee is still probably the best Transformers movie in live action, but Bumblebee in the Michael Bay era was not handled well. Adding it to the list of probably 10,000 things that weren't handled well with those movies, but definitely he wasn't handled well.
It's on my to-do list to rewrite the sequel trilogy or attempted sequel trilogy of Michael Bay movies.
Are they still going ahead with that? Speaking of which,
I don't know. It's fucking confusing.
because I know that the movie underperformed, but I think it still broke even, so they probably could still go ahead with it if they wanted to.
Yeah, I don't know. You're asking the wrong person here. Shall we?
Yep.
Silesium salami.
Phrasing.
What I'm talking about.
Now is the time for us to stand up together as one.
Look, that's Starscream and your Shockwave and Soundwave. Enough. Gosh, raise your hand if Wave is in your name. There's a lot of Wave.
You know, when they cut off the humor for a freaking second here, some of this doesn't look too bad. And then they do one of the meta jokes, and then I just regret everything.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm setting up the next trailer.
Yes, the good one. The positive thing for this week. By the way, Chris, if you're still here, we cover between 4 and 5 topics per week. This is essentially a geek news roundup stream, geek and culture news wind up stream, and usually we pick between 4 and 5 topics to go over per week. If you are unfamiliar with the format. Yeah, it is worth noting that unfortunately, because culture, entertainment, and politics are nigh on inseparable now, much to the chagrin of every right-thinking person, and by right I mean correctly thinking, we usually end up bitch slapping the various attempts to make entertainment and or culture political. Because they won't fucking stop doing it. But you are more than welcome here if you are in fact still here. And you will be welcome in the future.
Right.
If you are still here.
Alright. Oh, god damn it,
2
piece of
years
shit.
ago, the name Arthur Fleck hit Gotham like a hurricane.
The trial of the century.
Okay. So, were you able to hear them, by the way?
Yeah, yes. The audio
Okay.
was coming through fine.
Alright. Sometimes I'm just not sure if I remember to, like, click share audio or not. Okay, comments. Alright. Alright. Apparently, the Michael Bay Transformers is supposed to be a disaster film with aliens. So, Independence Day?
or at least Michael Bay's take on something like Independence Day that happened to have Transformers in it.
But yeah, day after tomorrow, Moonfall in 2012. Yeah. I'm because here's the weird thing. Like the rewrites I'm doing aren't like super. Like I'm not changing everything. Like I'm keeping the bare bones of it. Because the weird thing is with like the Michael Bay films, there are always like good ideas in there.
Yeah, there are several interesting premises. The whole ancient alien aspect, the like conspiracy theory hiding things from the normies thing, the like the moments where they actually play the lore straight are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just that in between all of those, you have Shia LaBeoufing, and
No, I had no problem with Shia LaBeouf really in those movies.
and the cringe dude bro Michael Bay isms.
Okay, yeah, no, those are stupid. I'm still of the firm opinion because it's Michael Bay and he likes to do the whole like hoorah shit.
Mm-hmm.
That the soldiers who had a lot more charisma, a lot more characterization, as bare bones as it was in the more like action movie tropey.
Mm-hmm.
That the soldiers should have been the main characters, like Linux or something.
Yeah, I mean, since it is a Michael Bay movie and he is like physiologically incapable of making a movie without a hoorah subplot in it, it wouldn't be a terrible idea.
But
I'd prefer if we could do without the hoorah, but it's Michael Bay and we can't ever do without the hoorah.
Well, the thing is, like, he did a really like with The Rock from the 1990, I believe, or
yes.
Was it 1990? No, not 1990. I know it was not 1990, but 1999 or something.
The one that had Sean Connery in it.
Basically playing James Bond, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was 1990?
I think it's closer to 99. I don't remember exactly when it came out. It might have been 98, come to think of it.
I'm looking. Give me a second. But I'm mostly handling the Kate Yeager movies because that character had a lot more potential than people realize. But I am recasting Mark Wahlberg because I do not think he works well in that. 96. Okay, 1996.
I think he could have if they gave him more to do acting wise, whereas in those movies he was basically just the generic tough action hero guy.
Well, okay. Oh. Okay, sorry. We're going to go on a tangent here before we do this trailer about
Get to the good one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, look, Kate Yeager's supposed to be from Texas, right?
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg is from Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes.
So he had a whole different like aura or air about him.
And he certainly made no attempt whatsoever to do the accent.
I don't know if, to be fair, depending on where you're born in terms of a state, you have a different type of accent.
I mean, that's true, and Texas, as we know, has the surface area of about 4 other normal-sized states. But it surprises me, especially given who Michael Bay is, that he made a character be from Texas and didn't give them the accent.
I recasted him to a actor who's actually from Texas. But also probably could play the actual story of Kate Yeager because it is, again, the weird thing is it's good ideas there, just never fully utilized.
Yeah, because Michael Bay is more interested in lowest common denominator explosion movies than he is actually telling a story.
Right. Yeah, my the guy I wanted to recast was Kevin Alejandro. And if you don't know who that is, he played Dan in Lucifer, and he's also the voice of and for you, Drencher would remember this guy. Dre, he Kevin Alejandro voices Jace in Arcane. So he's actually got like a really varied career, to be fair. So, yeah, that was also like just really weird. The Romeo and Juliet law bullshit thing in that whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
I had actually rewrote it. For one thing, I had just to explain, because they had it set up that Cade Yeager, prior to meeting the Autobots, was a engineer, right?
Yes.
A genius scientist.
Yes. And Mark Wahlberg played neither genius nor scientist in that movie.
Then they have him shift to becoming a. They shift him to becoming a action hero with no real showing of him either training or like anything, right?
Yes.
My simple rewrite of that. Well, he built a lot of like inventions from scrap he would find. So again, it's a Michael Bay film, and they never really properly do that. Well, his early movies.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Michael Bay's early movies actually did characterization well with a lot of them. Like again, weirdly enough, the best Nicolas Cage movies were the Michael Bay films The Rock and Con Air, which came out a year apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
the thing is, in the case of the Cade Yeager movies, the script called for someone who was a believable engineer. The Michael Bayism called for a musclehead action hero. So we got Mark Wahlberg, and never mind the fact that he is supposed to be playing an engineer, because the engineer isn't important apparently.
Again, I feel like there was a whole lot of mischaracterization. Well, not mischaracterization because it's an original character, but just they never stuck true to one idea with that character.
Yeah,
I would say
the script and the director were at odds with each other is the problem, because Michael Bay wanted a musclehead dude bro, but the script required someone who could believably be an engineer.
Right. So my idea. Sorry,
go ahead.
My idea for the rewrite of Cade Yeager, besides the recasting, was that he was a former Nest, which was the American government unit that was working with the Autobots in the first trilogy. That he was that he was a former combat engineer that worked with.
It would certainly make it more plausible that he would know how Transformer tech works, or Cybertronian tech.
And also the reason why he even hid Optimus to begin with, and even aided the Autobots, that he used to work with them.
It's almost as though building character is sometimes important or something.
And the antagonist force in the first, like in Age of Extinction, which I would have kept going throughout the series, throughout the trilogy, would have Cemetery Wind been made up of former Nest agents. Like giving and also bringing back some other like characters from the original trilogy, not Spike Witwicky Sam Witwicky.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just feel like there would have been, again, just kind of keep with the idea of like you want him to be an action hero, but you also set up the idea that he is an engineer or some type of mechanical guy.
So find a way to square the circle, or don't do it in the first place. Yeah.
So,
Which, mind you, as much as I just kind of lampshaded Mark Wahlberg, I do enjoy Mark Wahlberg, and aside from the fact that he can act when he's actually given material to act, he's also cute, which is fine. But he doesn't fit the character as laid out in the script. Of course, he and Michael Bay had worked together before on Pain and Gain, which I think is one of Michael Bay's best movies. To say nothing of the fact that it's eye candy for me, but that's neither here nor there.
all right. I was also going to make a point of this. Right, and my other... Oh. Is it just me, or did that corporation come off like they were going to use Transformers tech for the new iPhone and Minion dolls more than what you think of like new medical tech, military, NSA, etc.?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, actually, speaking of which, Stanley Tucci's character, I had actually redid it to make him Dr. Arkeville, which was a Transformers villain in G1, who sought to use the technology. Yeah, who sought to like grab and take the technology of the Transformers and use it for his own nefarious schemes. Like, he's a mad scientist, so.
Because in the Michael Bay movies, it's never really fully made clear what the evil people who want the technology want to use it for. It's just it really just acts as a MacGuffin, because I don't think Michael Bay has a sophisticated enough understanding of technology to even come up with plausible technobabble.
Well, they had they literally just had artificial Transformers that's to sell.
Which they just, I think, didn't they just call that Transformium, the like metal? They didn't even. That's right up there with unobtainium in the placeholder name in the script that you forgot to change before filming.
Maybe you could have called it Transmetal. Because I think that actually is what it's referred to in like some continuities. I think I remember hearing that from Beast Wars. It was talked about.
I would have gone with something like techno-organic adaptive metal, because that actually, like, no joke, was probably what it would realistically be called if,
or
as
Toa metal. Then
yeah, like so yeah, techno-organic reactive or techno-organic adaptive metal would be how I would go with it, but that would require having a more than grade school understanding of enough scientific concepts to do plausible technobabble with, and Michael Bay doesn't do that ever.
Right. I'd also, and spoiler obviously, but idea-wise, the Quintessons, because they were setting that up in Age of Extinction before they made it just Quintessa, which I don't know why. The Quintessons would have been the overarching bad guy for that trilogy.
But because Michael Bay is more interested in explosions than the plots, nothing ever came of that. Because, of course, nothing ever came of that. Because Michael Bay has gone on record as saying he only made the Transformers movies to make money, and he actually hated his own audience and thought they were the lowest common denominator. Which,
fuck that guy.
Far be it from me to say this, but if you want to attract someone who isn't the lowest common denominator, maybe stop treating your audience like they are already the lowest common denominator. I.e., if you want somebody to take the IP you're working with seriously, maybe you should take the IP you're working with seriously.
Right. And I'm not gonna lie, just because Michael Bay never finished the trilogy of the sequel Transformer trilogy, I had to borrow Rise of the Beast to make that trilogy, to make my own trilogy, which right.
they're already loosely connected as is, because nobody made a firm delineation as to when the reboot happened. So whatever.
So I may, and it would be very different comparative to the actual movie itself. Like Rise of the Beast. I mean, because it went to, in my restructuring of the sequel trilogy for the Bayformers movies, it was Age of Extinction, Rise of the Beast, and The Last Night. Because The Last Night seems like a third movie title, right?
Right. It works. It didn't work in the way they used it, because fuck the good ideas, we have explosions. But
full honesty, that movie had the most interesting concepts and ideas in it out of all of Michael Bay's movies.
Yeah, you had freaking Arthurian legend to pull from, and you still somehow managed to fuck it up. That actually, it takes more skill to ruin that than it does to actually just do a good version.
Right. Anyway, we have chatted on about that long, and I know Dalton wants to talk about this trailer, so.
Yes, because Joker 2 is a thing, and I'm excited.
Alright.
Even though, having already watched this through once, I think the first trailer was better than this one, but I'm still psyched for this.
Right. Okay. Was there something?
Banana cream pie.
Okay.
Because 2 years
clowns
ago,
and pies in
Arthur
face.
Fleck hit Gotham like a hurricane.
The trial of the century.
They believe Arthur Fleck to be some kind of martyr. Well, he's not. There's a monster.
Huh.
I mean, he's neither as yet. Like, if we're just going off of the first movie's events, he's had his one bad day, but he hasn't quite gone full Joker just yet. Like, it's not as if, unless something happened off screen, he didn't like poison the water supply or something, and I don't think he's invented Joker gas yet.
No, that I agree. Okay, that's fair, Giant Turtle. Transformers are always here. Is a bit stupid. I will admit to that. But again, I think there's some good ideas in there. That a better writer, a more creative writer, not to toot my own horn, obviously, but I think I can use and develop further. So
I don't know, DT. If you're gonna do like an ancient alien thing with Transformers, I'm fine with them like always have been here and everything. I'm a little bit less fine with them tying it with Arthurian legend, because that teeters on the edge of Clark's Law-ing, and you know how I feel about that. But the Cybertronian technology is quasi-mystical enough. You could get away with at least some of that without it needing to burn with fire like most of Clark's Law does.
But back to the Joker thing. It still looks amazing, like cinematography, coloring, and stuff, framing, and all that.
Which the first trailer also looked goddamn amazing as well.
Right.
That is sort of the standard for these movies, and so much the better. But I'm curious whether the radio voiceover here is referring to events we haven't seen yet. Because
also Harvey Dent is here, which hold on. Problem is the rest of it always we just got here thing. So where were these Transformers in all the previous movies? Why didn't they know more about Earth and have contacts / connections, etc.? Okay, let's be fully honest, Giant Turtle. Continuity was never Michael Bay's strong suit when working on those movies.
This is also true, but to literally steel man the position, but Tish, because
Shut up.
Transformers. To literally steel man the position for a second, I think the explanation, such as I remember it, was these are ancient Cybertronians who crash landed here thousands of years ago, and this is the first major society-wide interaction that Cybertronians and Earthlings had, i.e., when Optimus and Megatron got here, they brought armies with them. Every other time that Transformers had interacted with human beings, it was a group of Cybertronians had crash landed on the planet and were incapable of communicating with their home and so on. I think is the justification. I'm not saying it's a good explanation, but I am going to steel man the position and say that there was an explanation.
Right. Also, apparently thinks that it's going to be the Harley Quinn movie.
I mean, I don't. Okay. There's a lot of people who think. There's a lot of people among the anti-SJW Black Pill set, the Gary from Neurotics, the Maulers, in this case Arch, even though I think Arch is more on the spot than he isn't. But I don't see any evidence of that in either of the two trailers we've gotten so far. It just seems like they're doing an adaptation of Mad Love. Which, I mean, if you're going through major canonical stories for the Joker, they've already done at least the backstory elements from A Killing Joke, and now they're doing Mad Love. So it makes perfect sense to me.
I will be fully honest. I am somewhat disappointed that they're not doing they're not having Harley Quinn, or Lee as she is known here, be a psychiatrist, and we see that corruption and the further spiral of Arthur.
Well, because Arthur isn't a corruptive figure. He's not the Hannibal Lecter type. He is, at least as far as the story we've been presented here, a much more sympathetic, much more downtrodden version of the Joker than other versions of him, and therefore it wouldn't make sense for him to all of a sudden be Hannibal Lecter. If you want the Joker as Hannibal Lecter, there's your Barry Coogan version, which I still think that the Joker as Hannibal Lecter is a viable concept to do, but not with Arthur. Arthur is the Joker we're supposed to actually feel bad for as he inevitably spirals into madness. And so it wouldn't make sense for him to be this corrosive Hannibal Lecter style mastermind all of a sudden. At least not at this point in his arc. By the end, certainly you could have him make that jump by the end of the trilogy. And I do think this should be a trilogy. But it doesn't really make sense for Harley to be his Clarice if he is not her Lecter.
Well, the fact that Lee, as she's regarded here, is not a psychiatrist at all, but also another patient in Arkham.
Yes, and I think the reason... Sorry.
I was just going to say, that somewhat disappoints me.
It doesn't disappoint me because much as they made Joker more sympathetic, I think they're going to make Joker and Harley much, much less toxic. If I had to guess, the theme of the first Joker was the motto of One Bad Day. The theme of Joker 2 is going to be what happens when two people with complementary insanities actually do fall in love and support each other? What happens when Arthur has someone who is like him to encourage his tendencies?
Alright.
I think they're going to play Joker and Harley's romantic aspect a lot more straight and a lot more wholesome. There's still going to be, madness and the blurring of realities and so on in it, just like there was in the first one. But the movie is called Folie à Deux, which is a term that refers to states of shared insanity. So I think this is going to be Arthur finds someone who is, supporting his tendencies, and thereby she actually facilitates him becoming more of the Joker that we know by encouraging his tendencies.
All right. Shall we?
Banana cream pie.
Yep.
When I first saw Joker, when I saw you, the whole world smiled with you. For once in my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore.
Again, note the evidence or note the emphasis on not being alone, being supported, being connected with someone. I think what we're seeing here is them attempting to play Joker and Harley not just straight but wholesome. And for Arthur, who is the sympathetic sort of avatar of the insanity of society and the, recipient of the one bad day treatment, I think that makes a lot more sense than him suddenly becoming Hannibal Lecter and dragging someone down with it.
All right.
Banana cream pie?
Well, I was also going to mention Lady Gaga. Fantastic actor, which often you never really get that with like a lot of like singers who go into acting or something.
Yeah, judging from what I see here and what I saw in the movie A Star Is Born, where she played opposite Bradley Cooper, she looks like she actually can go toe-to-toe with Phoenix acting-wise. And that is a high fucking bar to leap over. And, I mean, Margot Robbie has basically all but abandoned Harley anyway now. I mean, she basically became solidified as Barbie in the Barbie movie. So there's no real love lost in me saying this, but Margot Robbie, eat your heart out. This is how you do Harley Quinn. Or at least this version of Harley Quinn, who is supposed to be more wholesomely in love with her particular Joker. But I don't see any evidence at all that she's going to somehow steal the spotlight from him. I think what's going to happen here is Arthur is going to be on cloud nine because he found someone who actually gets him. And she's going to encourage him to be the version of the Joker she has in her head, which is a almost quasi like anti-heroic Robin Hood figure, which because of their mutual insanities is probably going to turn into Joker and Harley painting the town red, so to speak, which is going to help bridge the gap between the Joker as he was at the end of the last movie and the Joker that we all know and love. Or, well, know and enjoy but hate, I guess is a better way of phrasing it. Banana cream pie?
Yeah. Now questioning everything she. Oh, hold on. Okay. Makes sense, though. Disagree that it's necessary. Could have been the sympathetic element that drags her along with him. And maybe not really going insane, but a bit emotionally unstable and now questioning everything she thought she believed about society and morality, even his situation and tragic story.
Again, I don't think it's necessary for her to be a psychiatrist in this particular version, in the same way as it wasn't necessary for Arthur to take an acid bath to be the Joker in the first one. Because this is a much more sympathetic Joker, I think them having a mutual compatible insanities and almost playing more of a Gomez and Morticia love story than the usual the Joker as Hannibal Lecter, Harley as Clarice Starling thing that they usually do. Which honestly, as someone who prefers a Joker and Harley relationship that isn't quite as toxic, I enjoy this, and playing it up as a like over the top classic Hollywood musical, it's fucking genius. But anyway, banana cream pie.
Right.
For once in my life.
We have another person who I've never seen before in chat and is apparently wanting to debate me. On the basis that I've never seen that name before, I'm going to go with no. Because trolls have a tendency of getting channels deleted and no.
Actually, he just joined our Discord server. I got a notification not too long ago.
Okay, how in the fuck did he join our Discord server if
we have the Discord link in the
I'm a moron. Because I was operating on the assumption that we'd have to invite, but never mind. We can talk about it later on Discord if you want. I'm not willing to just give out the stream link for free because unknown quantities are a bad precedent to get into on the internet, especially in 2024. I wish we still lived in the internet circa about 2016 or 2017, but we do not. YouTube will put the ban hammer down but quick, and
well, then also I'm not sure my computer can barely handle 2 people. So
yeah, 2012 would have been nice too. 2012 was back when Channel Awesome was still relevant. Oh, what good times they were, and we didn't know what we had.
Yeah. All right. But hey, cool to see a PF Monkey.
Yeah. And we can talk about it on Discord later if you want to. I just don't want to give someone who just showed up a mic without knowing anything about them, because that would probably go badly. And I'm not saying anything personal against you. I'm just saying protecting oneself on the internet is smart. So I will wait, and we will judge for that later on Discord, where there's no looming bots or looming algorithms leaning over our shoulder. At
Anyway.
least fewer, anyway.
Shall we?
Yep. Banana cream pie.
Yep.
I have someone who needs me.
How about you, Arthur? Do you still think you're a star?
Showtime.
With regards to what Dragon Turtle said, yes, the musical numbers are most assuredly in their heads, but you'd probably be able to guess that from the first movie, because most of the more iconic sequences were probably at least augmented by his
brain or mind.
Yeah, his trauma, because the aforementioned brain damage caused by his mother being a shit. But that's neither here nor there. Banana cream pie.
Yep.
The whole world smiles with you.
You can do anything you want.
The sun comes.
You're Joker.
Again, I just love the art direction for this. It almost feels a lot more colorful and heightened than the first one.
Which, I mean, they quadrupled the budget for this one, so they had more money to play with.
Right.
And unlike most of Hollywood, Todd Phillips apparently knows how to actually use the money that he's given and put it on the motherfucking screen instead of putting it behind the scenes for some reason.
But yeah, because it's supposed to be something obviously it's like you mentioned so many times before, it's Todd Phillips' take on the Killing Joke and the Martin Scorsese's King of Comedy, right?
Yes. Or Falling Down or Taxi Driver. It's in that wheelhouse, at least.
Right.
Probably more King of Comedy than anything else, because it is, after all, the Joker.
Right. Well, what I was going to say was, obviously it's set in the 70s, right? Or 80s?
I think early 70s was the first movie, so probably still early 70s. And where that movie was doing at least the backstory elements from A Killing Joke through the lens of Martin Scorsese, this movie appears to be doing Mad Love through the lens of La La
Land?
Chicago, New York, Singing in the Rain, that sort of thing.
What about? Well, no, I don't think
with maybe a dash of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to hold it together.
But what I was gonna say was, it has a very old school kind of style to it in terms of the cinematography, the lighting, the colors.
Yeah, it's not how much you spend on the movie, it's how much money actually makes it to screen that matters. You can have any budget you like, but it won't make any difference if it's not prioritized on the screen, which is the problem of most of modern day Hollywood. They have $200 million budgets, but most of that, for some unforeseen goddamn reason, is wasted behind the scenes instead of actually put on screen, and or basically only about a quarter of the actual money is used, and the extra money is there so that they can reshoot the entire goddamn movie on a whim. Whereas this movie It has around a $200 million budget, and it's going to use every ounce of it, it seems.
All right.
Which,
All right.
I mean, to be fair, Todd Phillips, even back when he was doing the Hangover movies, was always good at being very efficient with his budget, and more importantly, getting box office returns for that budget. Because like the Hangover movies were each made for between $20 and $40 million a piece, and they each made somewhere in the $300 or $400 million range. And Joker, of course, was made for like 60 million, and it made basically $1 billion over that. So clearly, Todd Phillips knows a thing or two about A, using budgets efficiently, and B, getting large box office returns with that money. If there's any justice in the world, this movie will make more money box office wise than Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm not certain that is a thing that will happen. Because for some reason, people are turned off by the musical concept, even though it's literally doing with Mad Love what Joker 1 was doing with the backstory parts of The Killing Joke. Anyway, banana cream pie.
Right.
Look around. Look at all these people. Bring on. I will no longer allow any of you. So stop your sighing. To keep me down. Be happy again. I got the sneaking suspicion that we're not giving the people what they want.
I'm not sure where you're getting that from, Arthur. I am enjoying this quite a bit. Granted, it's not as good as the first trailer. So, maybe.
Yeah, I'm so obsessed with the color here, man.
Because again, speaking of things that modern day Hollywood, for some reason, is completely loath to use properly. Color is a thing. We've had access to color film for almost 90 years now. Use it to your advantage, movie. And it's a sad day in the state of cinema when the guy who made the Hangover movies, making a Joker, hopefully, trilogy, is better at using the iconography of cinema than all of the pretentious hacks in Hollywood combined. Up to and including the people who inspired Todd Phillips. Yes, I'm looking at you, Martin Scorsese, you blockbuster-hating hack. Anyway, banana cream pie.
Right. Give me a second, get the tab. Sorry.
It's okay, baby. Let's give the people what they want.
Damn, I love that. I feel like the exchange about giving people what they want is almost a meta joke by Todd Phillips against all the people who hated the Joker movie. But that is how you do a meta joke actually that works. It didn't stop the movie dead. It didn't it didn't ruin the proceedings. It didn't bork the tone, but it did actually make a point for all the critics and old guard Hollywood hacks who had a freaking hysterical fit over the Joker movie, and probably will also over this one.
All right, let me roll it back because I didn't click the stop it. I stopped I stopped at 26, not 20. So
Yeah. For those who are new, because apparently we have multiple new people in the chat, we're stopping it every 20 seconds because YouTube has weird DMCA rules, and we find that if you stop a trailer or video every 20 seconds, you can get away with using it without getting algorithm yeeted.
Mm-hmm.
And we're using pause words because it's a bit of a wink and a nod to Honey Badger Radio, who did that first with the Rant Zerkers.
Mm-hmm. Shall we?
Yes, banana cream pie.
Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. Ready for the judgment day.
That is probably my most anticipated movie of this year.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I fully expect it to be my number one movie of the year, unless something goes horribly wrong or some other movie manages to unseat it from the top spot on that list. I don't foresee that happening in either case, but yeah, I am so fucking hyped for this movie, and I hope to God it becomes a trilogy, because like watching Arthur slowly but surely become more and more jokery as it goes by would be an awesome trilogy. Not to mention, I see even people who like the first one going, why did it need a sequel? Why did it need a sequel? Why did it need a sequel? And I'm fucking sick of dealing with those people. Movies that do well necessarily incentivize a sequel. This is not new. This is how Hollywood has always worked. Hollywood has always done adaptations. Hollywood has always done remakes of existing properties or remixing of existing properties. The only thing that's different now is that the remakes we've been getting for the last 10 years or so have been shit. But that doesn't mean that we should abandon the concept of the remake. It doesn't mean that we should stop remixing old IPs. It means that if you're going to do a remake, you actually have to bring something both new and good to the IP. And I don't think I'm going to be very controversial when I say that Todd Phillips' Joker is certainly up there on that list of things that correctly did that, as evidenced by the mimetic status that the first one had, all the while the entire journalist profession hated on the thing, and the fact that it made almost $1 billion, and much to the chagrin of Hollywood at large, managed to get 2 Oscars. In my opinion, it should have gotten much more, but we don't live in a world where Hollywood is an unbiased creator of quality. We live in a world where Hollywood is a elitist institution in and of itself, with its own fucking bass-backwards moral standards. But that's neither here nor there.
All right, so I guess with that, folks, I want to say goodbye, adios, aloha, avideze, sayonara, peace, cheers, and
shalom, and fuck off.